Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a quick second and remind you that we are going to do what we're calling our big summer read, and we've chosen Stephen King's The Stand. It is a large book, but I do hope that you'll join us and let me know if you're going to read with us. We're wanting to do maybe a couple episodes throughout the summer to check in, but also we're wanting to do a culminating episode, and you never know if we've got people who have been reading with us. It'd be awesome to have you aboard on the episode with us. So if you're going to read with us, that'd be awesome. If you don't want to be on the show and you want to read with us, hey, let me know also so I can text you your thoughts and things like that. Anyways, Stephen King's The Stand this summer, big summer read for 2025. Hello again, kids. Welcome back. This week we are reading, I think, a very unique book. It is kind of a mix between historical fiction. It's also a mix between, I think, a religious book. It's a mix between a thriller, and it definitely is rooted in horror. Now, I don't read a ton of horror. I think I've read maybe 3, 4, 5 horror books, not a lot. Thinking off the top of my head, the only ones outside of this that I've read has been Dracula and Bird Box. I really don't think that and Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. I've read that. So I've read 4 horror books in total. Jason Crockett gifted me this. We usually do exchange books for Christmas, and that's been a lot of fun. He gifted me this, and I'm thankful that he did. This is a book that I would not have read at all on my own if someone hadn't have given it to me, and I'm thankful that he did. It was a wild ride. The things that happened in this book were very crazy, but I think that that's part of the horror experience. But today we're going to get into some heavy topics. Every now and then, Jason and I have some really heavy episodes, and I think this one is heavy as well because there's a lot of religious undertone to this, rooted specifically in Christianity, because this book is a lot about angels, demons, war between good and evil, things like that. So another long episode, another deep episode, but I'm thankful that you guys have been listening, and I hope that you enjoy it. So without keeping you waiting, here is Between Two Fires.
Tomas, who has lost his lands, he's lost his church, he's lost his wife and son because of a failure in battle. And now he's a recreant knight who's tagging along with some really rough people in the middle of plague embattled France. They pick up a young girl named Delphine, who seems to be some sort of mystic, some sort of divine person. And along the way, they pick up a priest named Matthew, and they are trying to journey toward the city of, which city are they trying to travel through?
Avignon, yeah.
Because that's where the Pope has his residence in the 1300s.
Yeah.
And that's where they're going to go, and they fight demons and fallen angels along the way until we get to a hopefully good ending.
This book was a wild ride, I thought.
Because this is not your typical kind of book.
No, it's not. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it a lot. It's like I told you, it was one of those, and you had told me it was kind of like that once you got started, you just kind of I enjoyed it.
Good.
It was wild, though.
I wonder what you're going to rate it. I think I already know what your rating is, but I just kind of want to see how it matched up.
Do you want? You don't mean to do it now?
No, we can wait. We'll gamble at the end and see if I'm right.
Place bets now.
You got to say it like Tomas. Place bets now.
Okay. I'm trying to think of where to start with my thoughts on it. Okay. I'm just going to ask this first question first off.
Do it.
Where did you find this? Because it looks like to me it's self-published. So
is it?
I think so.
It
yeah,
looks like it.
It looks because it doesn't have a publisher on the side, and then I looked in the back to try to find some kind of answer, and it just says printed in the U.S. So to me, it looks like it's self-published, which is, I mean, that's fine. I have nothing against that, but I just didn't know.
He has a great following of readers. He has a great readership. You and I could do this. He can self-publish and get a great readership out of it. It always appeared on, I used to follow a subreddit of books you should read. And like everywhere, I feel like whenever TikTok would bring up books you should read, knowing my algorithm, it always appeared on there. It is just a book that has always appeared on things that Jason should read. And so I finally pulled the trigger on it this past summer, and I loved it. It's the only one of his books that I've read, but I also hear there's one called Across the River that they like as well. But this, I think, is his top fan-rated book.
Yeah. When I read this, like I said, it was wild to me. There were times that I was really into it, and I think that for me, because like you said, this is not something that I would typically read. I felt like that there were times that I don't know how to describe my emotion. I don't want to say repulsed, but I was kind of like, ooh,
Like, when were you repulsed?
Okay. I guess for me, okay. I think for me, there were times where I was like, is this okay for me to be reading right now? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
Like, you were afraid somebody was going to see? Somebody was going to catch you?
No. Okay. It's almost like, have you seen This Is the End? The movie?
No.
Okay.
I know it, but
okay.
I haven't.
It was almost like that where my brother and I were watching it, and we were like, this is not good to watch, but we couldn't stop laughing. Do you know what I'm saying? So we finished it, and it's okay. So I don't know where to get started with this.
Well, just spit it out. Like, what made you feel like I'm not allowed to watch this or read
there were
this?
times where I thought, as a Christian,
oh, okay,
I was is this blasphemous? Right?
Huh, okay.
But then I got to reading. That was something I was going to talk to you about too. So I guess we can just go ahead and get into it. There were times where I was like, no, this has got a really good, relevant message to Christians, and it to me, it lines up with a lot of, you were talking about how they were looking for God and waiting for God. And I mean, that's so true, I mean, how often is that we feel like that we're not heard? And I thought that Delphine, that was another thing too. Was Delphine, was she Jesus, or do you know what I'm saying? I didn't know what was going on. To me, I thought she was Jesus, that Jesus had, like, I guess, entered into her.
Like, inhabited her.
Yeah. Is that how you took that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I did not feel at all questionable as a Christian reading this book. I come to the table with, I've said before, The Stand is my favorite book of all time. And in the foreword to that, in the unabridged, uncut version, Stephen King says that he calls it a book of dark Christianity. And that always kind of rang with me. Like, doesn't Christianity have plenty of dark stories to tell? Or dark aspects to it, right?
Yes.
So when I read this, I can see where somebody might have that moral questioning, especially at the beginning. There are parts to it that open up and seem biblical. Like the very first, it's not even a chapter, but it's the opening of the book, reads as if it's biblical text.
Yes.
About the fallen angels drawing their designs against earth and God not responding. And I can totally see a lot of believers not liking that God's not there, God's not dead, God doesn't turn a deaf ear to this, and that over and over and over the book says that God was absent, God was not there, God would not save people. But I think if you read the book, that's not the case at all.
Right, yeah.
And I do think if you look at plenty of biblical figures, if you got to sit and have a conversation with them, that there were plenty of times in their lives they felt abandoned by God too.
Yeah.
The night before his crucifixion, Christ prays to have this cup taken from my lips, knowing it can't be and it won't be, But even Christ in human form begged, please don't do this, and got the same answer that plenty of our characters in this book get. Moses, Joshua, any of them I feel like have had their plenty of times in their life where they felt abandoned by God. And in the long enough timeline, that's not true at all.
Okay, so like the parts you're talking about where it was saying that God didn't listen, well, I guess they're almost like prologues, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
To me, I kind of just viewed it as a human aspect to things, you know, that's how we typically view it. And I mean, I'm guilty of this. If I pray for something and I don't get what I want, I basically throw like a little fit, right? Like, where are you? Why didn't you give me this?
100%.
Yeah. So
I think one of my favorite books of the Bible is Job. I used to have a preacher who was not a great preacher, and he was really boring. So I would sit and I would read a part of the Bible while he preached about whatever, and I just did not pay attention. And I used to read Revelation a lot just because it's an especially scary book in the Bible. But I also picked up Job one day and was just like, oh, I'll read this. And Job's not that long a book either. And I feel like this novel parallels a lot with Job because Job, it says that he's being tested, that Lucifer's like, oh, yeah, these people, you take somebody perfect like Job, you take everything from him and he'll curse you, that he'll curse God's name. So God is like, I'll play along with this for now, and takes everything from Job, punishes him by losing his family, losing everything. And even so, Job is in a really bad way, and he might fuss and complain, but he doesn't curse God. And I know that I'm human, and there have been plenty of times that I've, especially with the state of things right now, where I have said things in prayer style that I didn't mean to be.
Sure.
I'm not saying I have prayed for destruction upon my enemies, but...
oh, wait, you're not supposed to pray that?
I have certainly wished things in my heart that maybe events would have happened a different way and would have stopped us from getting into the current pit that we're in, it feels like. But we all do that. And it's like the Chinese proverb where the guy finds a horse walking into his community, and his neighbors are all like, oh, how wonderful for you. And he's like, we don't know if this is good or bad. And then the next day, the horse throws his son off and the son breaks his leg. Oh, how horrible for you. We don't know if this is good or bad. And then the next day an army comes through and they're conscripting people, but they can't take the son because. And so it's over and over. We don't know if this is good or bad.
Yeah.
And I know I've prayed certain things or felt certain ways, just like these characters, but I don't mean to curse God. I don't think God has abandoned me.
Yeah.
So for me, it just feels like all of it's very parallel.
I think so too. I think that was what I was going to say was, I know that we feel like a lot of times that our prayers aren't heard like they didn't, you know, and I'm thinking about the battle that we witnessed where I guess the cult, they were like they were like undead basically, where they were having their meeting and Delphine kind of called them out, and then that demon came down, and then the angel was reluctant to fight, but he showed back up, you know. Because I was thinking, this is awful. And I can remember thinking that I thought that why can I not remember the friar's name? What was
Matthew.
Matthew, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was where Matthew was going to kind of have his break, which he almost did, right?
Yeah.
But it turned out that, I guess, Jesus or God really kind of showed up right at the right time. If that would have happened earlier, then the whole effect, I guess, the person that was impersonating the Pope would not have been present for them to destroy and things like that. So, yeah, I thought it was good. I enjoyed that aspect of it. The aspect of I felt like it was a lesson in faith for us. And I did feel like that there was a good redemption story for Thomas. Yeah. And the part where, I don't know if I put that on here, but where he goes to hell, to me, that would be what hell would be like. You know, I know that I think I've listened to some biblical scholars talk about how we don't really have like a true depiction of hell. Like we know that there's fire and stuff, so we typically just assume that the fire and brimstone. But man, I thought that was a really creative way to describe it. But I also thought that would be just pure torment, the things that they were doing, which I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but.
Well, Dante in the Inferno characterizes hell in multiple layers, and so every layer has a different kind of punishment to vary the sin. But the further into hell that you go, the colder it gets because you're drawing further away from God's love, light, life, positivity. And so you're drawing toward anti-life, cold. And in this one, it's agony being repeated over and over. In Stephen King's work, I know it happens in Storm of the Century, and it's referenced in others. A character will say that hell is not other people. Hell is not even fire. Hell is repetition, doing the same thing over and over. King writes from the perspective of a former addict. And how do you describe the insanity of an addict doing the same self-destructive behavior over and over and over? But plenty of us do that too. And what a hellish thing to not ever be able to break out of that.
But then also how they used the people he loved most. You know, I know that probably sounds so weird to say a creative view on hell, but I did think that it was very hellish.
Yeah.
You know?
And if Dante's work and others have really entranced us, like they have, it is a creative, horrifying, but also like intriguing look at it.
You were also talking about how it paralleled with Job, and I didn't really think of it that way before, but speaking of Thomas losing everything, I thought it was really neat how at the end of the story he got reunited with Delphine, you know, and she didn't know any better, but I like that he still remembered, you know. So in a way that is like Job. Job didn't get his original family back, but he got multiple back, you know, so I thought that was really cool too. What do you think? I know I'm really ahead of myself, but what do you think about the ending with his wife when she tapped with the ring? How did you feel about that?
We all want there to be more earthly justice. We all want that. We want him to not just get his family back, get his lands back, and be restored and put him back onto that path that was robbed from him. But just like in Job and in plenty of other circumstances, reality is you can't have that back. You've had generations of presidents trying to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Well, these people used to live there, and you moved them out to move, Israelis in. But now these people are conflicting, and who gets to live there? Do they ever get to go back home? And for a lot of people, the reality is no, they just don't. So I hate that for him. But I also like that, he is restored in a way. And I hate that his son is such a rotten, terrible person. Because you only get a brief glimpse into that. But I like that the wife knew who he was.
Yeah, I think when I was reading it and he was talking to her, I'm like you. I knew that there was not going to be a chance for them to reunite. But I was hoping she would recognize him, and for a minute I thought, man, that she didn't see him.
But she does.
But she did. I didn't. When he's walking out, she did the tap. I did think that was a good ending, a good way to end that. So,
you had brought up earlier: is Delphine supposed to be Christ? Is she supposed to be Jesus?
And the reason I was thinking that is because she had the spear. They had the spear, but also the demon was holding her at that final fight, and he said, "Who are you?" And she said, "You know who I am." And then he goes, "Well, then you'll remember this," and then stabbed her with the spear. That was my Perry Haston into that.
I do think that she is supposed to be some sort of avatar. She is supposed to be some sort of, at least for that storyline, she is an incarnation of him. And the world in these prologue excerpts is so concerned with why God is ignoring them. But God has been in a human body, whether she knew it or not, walking beside you this entire pathway. And so you haven't been abandoned. And when you needed God, God was there. It reminds me so much of Joan of Arc, right? Who's another French saint, that
which was in Avignon. Is that correct?
Yeah. And you have this incarnation of divine being. And maybe Christ is not always inhabiting her. Maybe it was just for this one span. I still like that. I like the idea. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. I do not like the idea of sacrifice. Nobody likes the idea of sacrifice. Yeah. Sacrifice requires a lot of sacrifice and harsh things. But Matthew is a kind of sacrifice, right? Mm-hmm. And in order to achieve a better end story for him, he's got to be sacrificed in a small way. And Delphine, Tomas, like everybody has to sacrifice in order to be able to move on further. And what other greater image of sacrifice than Christ?
Yeah.
We talk about Christ-like figures in literature, and they don't have to literally be Jesus Christ, but Delphine is a Christ-like figure.
Mm. I thought it was cool too, speaking of the sacrifice, when Delphine was sacrificed, that was basically where the angel army poured out of, was out of the body, because it talked about how they just kept coming out and out and out. Yeah. So that was cool.
It's kind of like she's a gateway to all of that.
Yeah.
You didn't like the parts where the angels came down and battled larger than life against others?
I did. I thought that it was I guess my main problem to begin with was, like you said, this was really I try to read whatever I can read, but this was out of my area. I guess I just got really down, honestly, because I thought every time something like that would happen, you expect the good guys to win, especially with these good guys. Do you know what I mean? So I guess there were times where I would get upset because I thought, this is just going to be really blunt. I couldn't tell if Buehlman was a believer or not.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that, again, this is going to be very blunt, and I don't want to offend anyone when I say this, but I did think, like, I don't want you to take my God and turn it into a fantasy destruction type thing. Do you know what I mean? It worked out, I guess, and that the good guys did win, and we've talked a lot about how the good guys don't always win, and we like that, but not in this case for me. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think that there were times where maybe it wasn't, I said repulsed. That was probably the wrong adjective. I was more upset because I thought, if you're not a believer, because as a believer, you hear so many times people say, well, this is just you just believe in a fairy tale. It's a fairy book, And sometimes that's hard to, because Kyle Goff and I have talked about this a lot. When you list out your faith and the stuff behind that, it is unbelievable, right? I mean, it is. You sit there and you think yourself, like, this is really tough to sell. So I think for me, part of me was like thinking, I don't know that if you're not a believer, I don't know that I like the way that this is headed. I don't know that you should have the freedom to just to depict it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I liked it, but because I thought that too. There were times that I did a check on myself where I was thinking, well, if this was Skyrim or an Elder Scrolls novel or Lord of the Rings or something else, and it was a fake religion, then you would not be so upset about this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it wasn't that I didn't like the scenes. I guess I was just kind of getting upset, to be honest with you, and we should be bothered.
Ooh, listen.
And I mean, I did finish it, and I wasn't like offended to the point where I was going to turn you into Steve Taboo. But no, I did like the book, and like I said, I enjoyed the message. I just think that there were times where I thought, because there were times where I thought, no, Buehlman is a believer, and he's taken this, and it's a good message. But then, like I said, there were times where I wasn't really sure, and I just was not really sure if I was comfortable with the direction it was going from someone who wasn't a believer.
Sure.
And like I said, I don't want to offend if there are other people out there that listen to this, and it may just be my kids and your kids and our students and family, but if there are other people and they're not believers, that's fine. But for me, I was kind of, I guess that was the part where I was saying, is this blasphemous or not? I just didn't know that I was comfortable if he was a non-believer which is totally his choice. I didn't know if I was okay with the direction it was going, but it worked out. That's part of a story.
Yeah.
And I guess I recognize that as a reader, to brag on myself.
Here we go.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I recognize that as a reader, that I did want to hang in there and see where this was headed. But those parts that you talked about specifically they were disturbing mentally, right?
Yeah.
I think about one of the scenes that stands out to me is the part you were talking about when Matthew died, the monster in the river, and the heads. That was really upsetting to think about. So, I don't know. You talk about rambling.
No. This is good. I came at it from a different angle, where maybe it's because of all the scary crap that I watched that I'm kind of like numb to all of that, and that didn't cross my mind, not on the surface level of my mind. I really like the darker stuff, and I like the examination of my Christianity through a lens like medieval horror, which is really not even telling the story about monsters. My aunt used to tell me that all I care about is reading gods and monsters. But you know what? She's right. All I care about is gods and monsters. But it's more than that. This is just like so much other good literature, an examination of humanity and our biggest questions.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know that I ever considered, is Buehlman writing something blasphemous? Does this feel like an authentic treatment of my faith? Is he being too light in his handling of it? Is he mocking things or whatever? For me, I think in this case, because it's the only book of his that I've read, maybe it's more of a testament to the quality of his writing, that he was telling a good story, that I didn't feel like he was mishandling it. And I don't know what his belief is or is not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, I don't even question it. I don't know that for Crockett, it matters whether he was atheist or Baptist or whatever. I feel like as long as he's telling a good story that leads us to asking the, better questions.
Tough questions.
Having the tough conversations and asking the tough questions. That's why I'm counting this for my professionalism.
I'm going to start putting that in the description.
Yeah. But the same way with The Stand, I feel like The Stand, Stephen King probably doesn't agree with it now that it's a work of dark Christianity. I think he's changed his stance on that. But for me, it still is. And I think it's great. And maybe Steve Taboo or somebody doesn't agree with its presentation of God and others. But in The Stand, Mother Abigail is absolutely right that there are plenty of times my life as a Christian, her life, your life, whatever, has to be a walk in blood. That there are plenty of times sacrifice, punishment, agony is just an article of your faith. It is something that you have to live through. And for some, much more than others. I have never been made to suffer as much as Christ in anything that I've ever done. There are Christians out there who have had to lose children, and so far, thank God, I've not had to do that. But that's part of the believer's life, is that you walk in darkness, often feel alone, but you have to remember that you're not alone, and you may not get the answers ever, but you do have to still keep walking and believing. I liked his treatment of God. I liked that Christ was there all along with you in some incarnation or another. And I liked the whole, then you're going to remember this, and the unleashing of angels.
Yeah.
I liked the battle between angels and demons. I didn't know quite what to think about the part where these two larger-than-life angels are wrestling a demon, and they plunge it into the river, and it comes back up, a redeemed angel. I do think that's a part where I questioned. I don't know if that's theologically right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think Buehlman is speaking to a larger message of, no matter how bad Thomas may be or other human beings, if we can redeem this, we can redeem you. If we can redeem a criminal, we can redeem you.
Well, I think for us as Christians, that's the cornerstone of our faith is redemption. So that's what I was saying. I like the redemption aspect of it. And it's not that I don't read things that A, challenge my faith, or B, disagree with my faith. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty open-minded person, so I just was really uncertain because it was so blatant that it was God and it was Jesus. Does that make sense? Like, it was just so, like, there's no questions I don't have to read between, this is God and this is Satan, and do you know what So I was just thinking too, this just kind of popped in my head. I think too, like, I don't know, maybe you disagree with me, but I almost feel like that's kind of getting played out just a little bit. I read All the Sinners Bleed, which Obama had recommended last year, and I read it, and the Sheriff Titus Crown in that was questioning his faith. It was very similar to Leave the World Behind, where it was like, remember the wife in that of the owners was every chance she got, I don't believe in God. I used to, but I don't. That was how that was too. And again, if people choose not to, that's fine, and I don't care to read literature about that. But I feel like that's starting to get played out just a little bit, and so when I was reading that, I was like, okay, you're struggling with your faith. You're so original, and I don't know. I guess I would like. Again, I was just wary of where this was going. I'm glad that I don't want to. I just don't want to sound like a Bible thumper.
No, I don't think you are.
I think that it was a good message. If you're a non-believer, I think it was a good message. I think if you're a believer, it was a good message. I do think that if a Christian picked it up, there are elements of that they're going to have to get over. Do you know what I mean? Like, that they would be uncomfortable with, like you were talking about. I did like the aspect of, like you were talking about it, saying, well, then you'll remember this. Because that to me is the contrast of our faith with the good and evil side for those of us who believe is, our God is supposed to be Prince of Peace, gentle, and we're viewed. Then it compares Satan to a roaring or a thief in the night and things like that, right? So it was good. I thought that was like the contrast of the two, because there were times with the evil side in the book that I was just like, this is gross.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking about when the Pope was having the affair and they came out. Oh, I'm sorry. They came out and they were licking the sheets.
Yes. Yes.
I was just like, this is nasty.
Yes.
But anyways, I thought that was a good contrast. I like the message of it. That was just.
I think that was something that I just didn't anticipate, and there have been times when I was first married, we had our in-laws over, and they wanted to watch a movie, and they were like, well, what's your favorite movie? And I was raving about Fight Club. I love that movie. And they were like, okay, we'll watch Fight Club. I don't know why Jason Crockett back then thought that would be a good idea to have my mother-in-law and father-in-law watch this very violent, rough language movie. And it was just one of those things, I didn't think ahead about that. So when I read this book, I didn't foresee any of those challenges. If Buehlman had maybe God appear as an anime figure and then come down and say, there, devil, now, then I would have been like, okay, I 100% get what you mean with some of these played out tropes, or maybe that in 2020s, that's just become a social mode of displaying Christianity as something naive. And I, again, agree with you. I'm not challenging anybody's Christianity here, except maybe my own. But maybe in ways we as people are more naive than we realize about our beliefs, about our politics, about whatever. And maybe some of us should be challenged, like Ray Bradbury says. But I don't think that it would feel genuine or authentic if it was just, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. And then you really don't build upon it.
Right.
What was the book that you were referencing? All the Sinners
Bleed, yeah.
So does that pick up that and with the guy who's lost his faith and develop it as a story? Or is that? I don't think so. I mean, those who are listening that have read it may disagree with me, but
his dad was very religious and was very involved in the church, and it was just the typical like. It was a lot like in Leave the World Behind, you know, because she would always be like, "Well, if I still believed, I would pray right now, but I don't believe," you know.
Well, then I'm just going to say this: if we're judging it by Leave the World Behind, and we're judging it by quality of writing,
which was no, you said Obama was on the Netflix. Yeah.
He was a co-producer for it, right? And
which we were fans of President Obama.
I'm a huge fan of President Obama. I'm not a huge fan of his productions or his book recommendation right now. But
well, you were talking about building upon it, and that story, it just kept going and going and going. Yeah. And I was waiting for him to honestly have that moment where he was like, "Oh, I do believe," or "It's not a perfect faith, but it's my faith," type of thing. And it just, nothing really came up. It was just, which this was my issue with Leave the World Behind. It felt like the author wrote that in there just to prove a point. Yeah. Just to prove my point. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't artistic. It wasn't, I don't know that there was really any proof. And again, people listening to this may say that I'm being base or daft or whatever, you know, but I didn't think that there was no additional story other than there was a small conflict between him and his dad that just really didn't amount to anything. You know, it did lead to him confronting a preacher and saying the preacher was a crook, which again, it's just like, okay, this is so original, you know. And that's what I'm saying. It to me, it made it feel like that it was just this is a point proven. I want to prove this as an author. This is my personal point, which, I mean, that's what authors do with their writing.
I guess up to a point they come to the table, but I don't know if they come to the table with an agenda to prove.
That's what it felt like. Yeah,
then that doesn't feel like good literature, which should be provoking you to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
In the Canterbury Tales, which is another medieval text with plenty of horrific and funny things in it. One of the characters, the parson, is just a poor, humble country preacher. He is different from every other religious figure in the entourage. All of the other church figures are either corrupt to the bone or mildly corrupt. You like them, but they're not really doing their best job as a preacher. But the parson is the most Christ-like example, that he is poor, he practices what he preaches, he gives everything he's got to the people that are just as poor or so as him. He's a little bit ugly because he's got this sty in his eye, but he always preaches the same message, that if gold should rust, what would iron do? And so that's his metaphor. If the best of us are corrupted, then what hope could the lower classes have? And you look at your celebrities, you look at your billionaires, you look at your presidents, you look at the people that society holds up and says, these are the top. And if they are so rotten to the core, corrupt, whether it's the Pope in Avignon, the president in Washington, D.C., a Hollywood celebrity, if they are so rotten corrupt, if you found out your preacher were involved in a scandal and they are supposed to be so much better, then what hope could the common man possibly have? So for me, it kind of affirms like that you have to have these higher expectations. It's going to get gross at times, like with the Pope's party and other things, but we can't let these things infest and infect and continue to go on. We have to do something.
I think it's also this book had a good lesson in, you were kind of talking about looking to these people, your leaders, preachers included. Whereas for a Christian, where is my faith located? Is it in people, or is it in actual God? And am I acting that out? You were talking about the parson, right? That's who's acting their faith out. Right. People are human. You and I are human. I am not perfect by any means. And so if people were basing their faith on me, I mean, I know that I have actions that I need to take to show them that. But if they put their faith in me, I'm going to do something to let them down. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, and I thought that was good because you were talking about how they were, where is God? Well, he's been there the whole time. And how many times has it been like that when we go through trials? It's been like, where have you been? And then, you were there the whole time.
It's almost like there's an inspirational poster with footsteps on it.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. No, don't say that.
I felt similarly with Crisis of Faith. I mean, I won't reference any specific election, but with previous elections where I can remember thinking, this is a train wreck. This is a train wreck. And I know I've prayed, please God, don't let that one win. Please God. And it's great that you bring that up, because it's like I've had that thought, and I don't know if it's God putting it in there or just my conscience or what. That's like, why do you think why is that one person going to be the savior? Because the savior's elsewhere.
Right.
That candidate's not a savior. That candidate's not a savior. None of them are. So I have to retrain my prayer to be, whatever you want to happen in this election, let it be what you want to happen. And when everything seems to fall apart and go the other way, I have to say, God is good. Whether this election went the way that I hoped, or whether America is burning and we're fiddling, or whatever happens, God is still good. Even because I don't have the perspective. He's got a better perspective than I do. Yeah. And that's my belief about it.
Now we'll pass the baskets, and if you could put an offering in there.
We are missing an opportunity. This is how we fund the next episode.
We're going to save this for our live episode when we have 10 people in this classroom.
Be sure to slap like, hit subscribe, put $1 in the basket.
We do communion every fourth pod.
I'd like it if people in their cars right now were saying amen. That would be nice.
Oh, man, that's so funny. No, that's what I'm saying. I was concerned, but it was a good message.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I continued reading it. And it was, I couldn't stop reading it. I read it pretty quickly. So, speaking of some other things, though, we've talked a lot about the language in this book. I put the question here: do you think that it is purposely written that way to reflect the rough and dire situation, or do you think he's just being your classic nerd?
Kids, your dad is cackling because he's thinking about reading it the way Thomas would have said it in the book. That's why he's finding it so funny right now. So your question is, does it add authenticity?
Yeah. Like, do you think, because, we've talked about this too. We talked about it with The Road for me when I said that I felt like Ely had kind of gotten stuck on purpose, so that I felt like that I was in the same situation as Weatherby Wright, where I was ready to get this railroad finished. And when we finally did get to the end of the tunnel, there was that redemption almost for us, or job well done, or mission accomplished. And then in Cold Mountain, we talked about how was Charles Frazier purposefully sitting on moments so that we felt like we were on this journey with Inman, and it was so long and we were so desperate to get it finished. So I wonder, and maybe that's just a me thing, maybe I feel like that there's such value in the way things are written that this author was using the language, the rough language, to add on to that element of the disgusting. How would you describe it? The disgusting, the horrible, this is not. I don't think at any point did he want you to think this is an okay situation. We can be okay here, It's like On the Road by Cormac McCarthy. When the dad and the son get to that bunker, do you know what I'm talking about? I remember reading that thinking, can we please just stay here forever?
Oh, I know.
Can we please stay here forever?
It.
And he says it's time to go. And I was thinking, no, it's not. You're fine right where you're at. You're okay. This is perfect. There was not a moment, I don't think, in this book like that, because I'm thinking of when Tomas and Delphine get separated, and I've got it here. Delphine's in the church. Yeah. Delphine's in the church and she's resting, and you think, okay, she's finally got a chance to kind of rest. Nope. There's this evil broom monster coming at you. Or even when the party, the first party, you think, well, you're thinking, I know that I was thinking this could be good, but Delphine would not go. Right.
And
And we kind of started getting glimpses of something is different going on here. So you were even uneasy during that part, thinking, when is the evil going to show up?
Right.
You know?
Well, not all of the characters speak that way.
Right.
And I think you definitely would have had a problem with Buehlman's presentation of faith if Delphine cursed like Tomas does.
Right.
And played it off like, isn't she edgy? Isn't she cool? She's, what a unique individual. I don't think that would have landed with any authenticity whatsoever. And I do think that there's the case to be made that among this landscape of people, plague, everything going wrong for us, plenty of people are crude and their language mirrors it. And Delphine stands apart from that because she doesn't. She's much purer. She's an embodiment of purity, and she just doesn't speak that way. I think plenty of people would say the same thing about Steinbeck's work, or heck, any novel that includes curse words. Any of these books that are challenged or banned from school districts because it has the cussers in it. Steinbeck doesn't include the cussers because he wants to sound edgy and cool. People who want to reprint, this was years ago, there was a group that wanted to reprint Adventures of Huckleberry Finn because it uses the N-word so often through there. I don't think Mark Twain is being cavalier with his use of the N-word. I think he's repulsed by it too. And by calling Jim, specifically the N-word Jim, I mean, he's showing how society has so dehumanized a remarkable human being that it's just become his name. And really, we should call him Jim, but you can't reprint Twain's work deleting that. My students told me that the previous teacher would not say the N-word out loud, okay, but instead insisted the class call him Homie Jim.
Okay.
Or every time. And I thought, no, we're just, that also feels way wrong to do. I agree. If it's so offensive, I can't even say the word. We all just say N-word. It's that bad. He's not using it casually. He's doing it for some point. And I think if Buehlman is a talented writer, Tomas is not just cursing left and right because there's times where Delphine rankles at it and tells him, you should not be saying like that. You have to talk better. And he immediately responds with more cursing. And it elicits a laugh from us, right? So there's times that it's funny. There's times that it's rage. There's times that we're all just surrounded by so much muck and mire right now in a society that's how they speak. It does bother me when I'm watching this show on HBO, The Newsroom, and you have these news reporters in New York, and there's so many times that the F word is on there.
Yeah.
And it's like I immediately just cringe from it, not because I'm a prude, but because I don't need to hear HBO bellow the F word 17 times to be a cool episode.
Right. Well, we talked about that at lunch today. How where's the artistic value in that?
Right.
I think that it made us laugh, the language in it, but there was, like we were saying, artistic value in it because it characterizes Tomas. It shows us how rough he is. It kind of shows us how far away he's gotten from his original self.
That's
right?
a good point.
And I do think that it does show us the roughness of the time period or the situation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The situation that they're in. Whereas sometimes when you watch a movie or something like that, it does feel like we're just trying to get our PG-13 or our rated R rating.
Have you seen any of Stranger Things?
I've seen the first 4 seasons.
Okay. So in the first season, there's some cursing, but I think it's mild and it's like just occasional. But as you go further into the series, it's just word after word after word after word. And granted, they're supposed to be like middle school kids, and I know middle school kids know language too.
Well, no, they never cuss.
I'm just saying, man, it's like
high schoolers never cuss,
right? And I know my friends and I did stuff when we were in middle school, but I just do not remember kids with language like that left and right. And so, is it authentic or is it trying to appear edgy and cool? Is his presentation of faith authentic or is it trying to be edgy and cool? And I think in both cases, it's authentic.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. It does remind me though of when I told you. If he ever comes across this, I hope he doesn't.
Oh boy, I hope he does. I do,
because I was going to contact him and ask if he wanted to be on here, and now he never will. When I listened to him read it, it was not at all like what it was in my head.
Yeah,
which was upsetting. I've got on here how this is kind of, I guess, more of a teacher question, but how important is our inner voice to enjoying books? Do you know what I'm saying? Because if I would have listened to Buehlman read it audio wise, I don't know that I would have been. I don't know that I would have been able to finish it, to be completely honest with you. But in my head, I enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
well, it does matter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have careers out of voice actors that are coming at such a premium. And people will remark, "Oh, I heard this on Audible, and he did the best job ever." It really does matter to people. The reader for whoever did Game of Thrones books, I remember reading or listening to the audio of them, and he mispronounced characters' names. Instead of Brienne, he called her Brienne, and some other things, and it just felt so false. I couldn't stand it. But the books have such tremendous value as a reader. They have such tremendous value to me. So, yeah, I would think a lot.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you have to read to get that inner voice. That's what I try to tell my students.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying reading, it's because you're not reading. You've got to grow that first. So.
Stephen King says that good writing should never feel like you're reading line by line. That good writing is like the page just kind of fell open and you fell into it and just experienced it. And that's plenty of what reading was like for me with this. I don't remember hearing an inner monologue reading the book, but I do remember seeing it so cinematically. Because Henry Cavill is definitely the guy that I think of as Thomas. I just saw it so easily, all of the scenes, all of the shots for it. But I also am a kid. I was a kid who read a lot, and just like you, and I'm a guy who reads a lot. And so I don't struggle with having to read page by page, but plenty of our beginners do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a good audio version of it would help.
Yeah.
Mr. Buehlman, a good audio version of it would help.
That's another reason I thought it might have been self-published, is because I could not find anywhere except he had posted it on his own YouTube of him reading it. So, hey, it's okay. Sometimes we're better writers than we are readers.
Facts.
Speaking of good writing, though, I did think that he did a good job of leaving us questioning Delphine, because you would get to trusting her, and then you would have these moments of where I'm really thinking of when they were at the cottage. Do you remember that part? And the angel showed up to Matthew, the angel in quotation marks. Really, it turns out it was not. Right. It was a demon. But the saint shows up, and he's like, you should be aware of her. And I think from that, there were times where I was questioning Delphine, but then when that happened, I was really questioning her. And when she went on her own journey and went to the town where the undead were, I kind of thought she was going to get exposed there, to be honest with you. And then that was kind of when I knew, well, okay, so I say that there was a point in that battle, because that's where that battle ignited, because the angel was helping her. And so I thought, no, she is one of the good guys. But then the demon just ignored that she was even there, you know? And so after all that, I was still thinking, maybe she's not such a good. So I thought he did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I found myself questioning her, though. I feel like I took her character at face value. And as much as I like Delphine, I really don't think that she's as in-depth as Thomas's character or Matthew's character. No. I feel like if I had to rank them, it would be Thomas, Matthew, Delphine. Yeah. But so I just feel like I didn't mistrust that. I just assumed, okay, she's a saint. She's a good incarnation. She's naive about herself and naive about trusting others. But if somebody shows up and tells me, oh, that Drew Haston, You better watch out for him. Watch. And they want to start telling me secrets about you, but not in front of you. 1,000,000,000%. I know that you are the red flag. Or at least I know better now. I know better now. Because we've all had to encounter
what if someone said about me?
No. I'm just saying.
I'm just kidding.
Like in your life, this is a good life story, kids. In your life, you are going to meet a lot of snakes and serpents. And they do not look like snakes and serpents on the surface. That's how they get in the door in the first place.
A lot like the saint that Matthew.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joe McCarthy got elected a senator. He was a highly publicized national figure. He doesn't look like the devil. But that's how he gets in the door in the first place. And how many times do our celebrities, do our politicians, do whoever, they get so close to you, and they may be really funny. They may be somebody that you really enjoy spending time with, and you don't question, should I really be, catering to that person? Should I really be letting them act like that? But that's how the snake and serpent gets in. So the older, wiser person now is like, I've been bitten before. Watch out for that.
Talking about that now, do you think that Delphine was kind of just someone to progress the plot along, maybe?
In some way, she is a vehicle for that. Yeah. We just really don't get much character. Is there really anything dynamic about her?
I mean, she doesn't really change much.
No.
Yeah.
So in that way, the literary teacher says she's a static character, and rounder, more genuine characters are going to undergo some sort of change because people are always changing. And in that way, Thomas and Matthew do. But not Delphine. She's just a good person.
She just kind of gains power.
Yeah. She's like Pandora, holding hope within her while evil, all the different sins of the world are around her. But that's it.
You were talking about Henry Cavill being your guy.
Oh, yeah.
Delphine, for me, which we cast our movies, you and I do, or our books, I'm sorry, and we talk about those. Richard Armitage was my guy.
Oh, that would be so good, too.
The Delphine, I couldn't really place. I'll tell you who she reminded me of, and then I don't know if it was because she reminded me of this character, and then I made a parallel on my own. But I don't know if you've watched The Bad Batch.
I know of it. Yeah.
So Omega, the character on there, to me, the description kind of fit the same, which I know that's animated. But I kind of started thinking about there were parallels between the show and the book, because in The Bad Batch, they pick her up and she joins their crew, and they're very reluctant to take her on, which is how they were the same way. And she connects with the leader of the group, which I know in the story, Thomas says that he's not the leader, but you could tell by the way. Yeah, they were all looking to him. Yeah. And she takes up with him. Omega becomes like a daughter figure to Hunter, and Delphine becomes like a daughter figure to Thomas. And it was like a lot of, you can't go on this mission with me, it's too dangerous. And then guess who shows up anyways?
Yeah.
So to me there was a lot of similarities between the two. So I think you should check it out.
No, I absolutely agree. And I also want to see some side fan fiction written about this, where it's between two fires, The Bad Batch. And that's how other people are referring to them moving through the plague and battered countryside of France. I think you and I also pick up on that because, it's probably a common enough trope that you've got this bitter, grizzled older man and young, at least more hopeful girl character. You've got Wolverine and X-23. You've got just a lot of types of that. But also you and I probably pick up on that because as girl dads, we're the older, grizzled male. Yeah. And she's the more redeeming female aspect of us.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say you were hoping for the Between Two Fires with Zach Galifianakis in
it. But then we wake up and it's a demon.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Oh, no.
So I read, I don't remember where I read this at. It may have been on Wikipedia or something like that. Because I usually do try to look at the back notes to a book when I'm reading something. it talked about how Buehlman had he was in his acknowledgments. I remember now. He had researched the medieval names of French people because he had a professor, I think, in France that he was communicating with who was helping him pick names for the characters. And so I just got to thinking, it reminded me too of Charles Frazier, who we talked about last week, would list the books that he had read to research his fiction writing, not necessarily his nonfiction, but his fiction writing. Do you think that gives a layer of authenticity that we don't realize is there? Or do you think that if we didn't know any better, we would not know any better? It doesn't really matter. Do you know what I'm saying?
Think it's certainly up to a point. It's authenticity. Because if he starts using inappropriate names for the time period or inconsistent names with the time period, it's going to leap off the page. If you have Thomas, Matthew, Delphine, and they're all spelled this way, and then you've got, I don't know, I'm trying to think of
Pierre, Jean. I
think I would still believe a character named Jean-Pierre.
Yeah.
But if you had somebody like Alex or I don't know, Mike or something like that, it's way wrong.
Michel.
But I do like, because I looked up, the Pope at this time, the Court of Avignon, and he does try to draw his historical parallels to it. So absolutely, it's authenticity to it. I like that the book, it does end with a win for the good guys, and there is redemption. But it doesn't end with evil being completely purged from the world, which I think would also hit really false. That just because, things have been redeemed, I do think it was a little bit silly that the Pope, was a devil in disguise, and the real Pope was just being hidden. The real Pope was just hidden
in like a barrel of wine, or
like Mad-Eye Moody in Harry Potter. He was just hidden in the trunk the whole time. So that felt a little bit goofy to me. But that evil is not going to be entirely purged because the story still goes on. The world keeps on ticking.
Do you think, I know that we've talked about parts of the ending that we liked, but do you think it kind of fell flat a little, or do you think it was fine the way it was? Because you were talking about them finding the Pope. Was that just too easy?
No, it was just a little bit of a chuckle for me to be like, he was just there the whole time. How about that? And he's not evil. The real Pope is not evil. But as a human being, he is certainly flawed. He's got some gross aspects to him. The only part I just didn't really love was that Thomas's son is rotten.
Yeah.
Probably because Thomas has not been there in his life and a lot of other influences have. And B, because the kid probably has his own hard road to go in order to redemption. I just like that, or I didn't like that we don't get to restore all of that. So
this is kind of reminded me, this might sound nerdy, but on Red Dead Redemption, the first one, John Marston is, I don't want my son to be like me, outlaw, gunslinger, revenge-driven. And Jack is studious, and he's always reading. And Jack and John have this relationship that we probably have with some of our kids of our own, where I'm this person and you're this person, and I want us to connect, but we just don't connect on a lot of do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so John's trying his best to connect with Jack because he's wanting to be a rancher, and he's this rough, tough ex-outlaw, and Jack's very like tender and very like I said, studious and literate. And anyways, after John dies, you play the epilogue and you're Jack, and guess what? You're revenge driven. I'm going to go find the agent who killed my dad and betrayed him. And so it kind of reminds me of that. You were talking about how he was going to be on a redemption of his own. That
also reminds me of one of my favorite TV show characters, Tony Soprano from The Sopranos, who you root for so often. He's a rotten, terrible human being, but he's a well-written character, so there's times you root for him. And they did a TV movie for it after the series had finished called The Many Saints of Newark, in which you get to see the guy who was like a father figure uncle to him. And he was a gang leader. And here's teenage Tony, who just wants to be like you, wants to be liked by you. And the guy knows if I keep him in my life, he's going to turn out like me. Mm-hmm. So he keeps shoving the puppy away, shoving him away, even though the puppy wants to be around, shoving him away, and then he dies. And the very last scene is the funeral, and Tony's standing at the coffin, this teenage boy, looking at his dead uncle. And the last shot is the uncle's hand comes up out of the coffin to pinky swear with Tony, which was a thing they did. And then the music from the TV show starts playing, and you're like, oh, that's where he got committed. This is where he followed that dark side.
And it gave him a slice of gabagool.
The gabagool.
I got a couple more things, and I don't know what else you've got, but I'll give you what I've got left. Let me go with this first. We're talking about the end of the book, so I'll stick with it. There was a part where the second party was happening, and I should have written the exact line down, but he recalled the first party, and I guess to me, we've been talking about his craft and that we enjoyed it, but I was kind of disappointed with that because I thought you could have drawn us to that as opposed to just directly saying, do you remember that part? So I didn't know what you thought about that, if that could have been more subtle. You may not even remember the part that I'm talking about, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now because it's been like 3 weeks since I read it, but it was the jester type player. He looked at him and he was like, just like he looked at me in the first party.
Right.
And I was thinking, we didn't need that. If we were reading like we should have been, we would have caught that, you know? So, I don't know.
Maybe that was a little inartful. Is inartful a word?
It is now.
It is now. Maybe so. Because the first party is definitely the thing that's going to foreshadow and set the expectations for the one you find later.
Did that even happen?
The first one wound up being a dream sequence.
Yeah.
That this was all just a bad dream. And I feel like there was a biblical parallel to that too, where they thought they were going through something only to finally be brought out of it. And I may be hyper imagining that. But yeah, Thomas, all of them should have seen that parallel is pretty obvious because we already went through this dream party battle before. We know we're getting into a trap. We should see that pretty clearly.
Yeah. How did you feel about him taking on the image of the other night, I guess, the one that had taken his family? Were you like, this is cool? Or?
I thought that was clever.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was clever just because he's kind of written himself into a corner of how you're going to get this guy in there. And Thomas wants his revenge against the, isn't it the Comte de Crécy? Comte Devereux,
like
that's
that,
it.
Yeah, Devereux, yeah.
And he's wanting to get revenge to it. Well, how do you do that? And I really expected, that he was going to have to be the one to take brutality into his hands. But wouldn't that have driven him further down a path of darkness? So Deus Ex Machina, you get to disguise yourself as him, and that's how you're going to get into the court of Avignon.
Yeah.
I thought it was clever.
Okay. The hands.
I've been looking at that, trying to think, what do you mean?
Okay, so it starts off with that monster in the river, the first monster in the river. And he talks about how the tail was like, had that human hand on it. And he kept saying the hand.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
The what hand?
Yeah. Boop. Okay. And then he got into the next one with the next monster in the river. And he was like, and there was the hand. And then it said that again. And then I feel like the hand popped back up in the final battle because I remember him saying hand, and I was kind of thinking, because we talked about that, if we think that there's symbolism or an illusion, there is, but I could not for the life of me try to figure out what was the thing with the hand.
I don't know. Yeah. So when I read this book, it was like in a 2 or 3 day spin. This is one of the fastest I've ever read books. And I don't know that I paid attention to that detail. So now when I do a reread of it, that's going to be something I have to look for. I know hands make an appearance in Macbeth, that they are constantly referenced in there, whether it's the bloody hand or a hand wink at the eye. Like it's over and over that hands come up. Mr. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth even take hands when they join in this venture to go. So hands mean something because they're being used over and over as a motif. But I don't know that I paid attention to it in the book, so I would have to reread.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I genuinely do not know. I've tried to, like you said, figure out, okay, what has it been in past literature? I mean, when I think of hands, I think of like working, things like that. But to me, it wouldn't apply there. Maybe praying, you pray with your hands, and this.
But the hands aren't being used in prayer.
No, yeah. So I genuinely could not figure it out. It just kept coming up over and over and over.
Well, in the examples that you're giving me, it sounds like the evil ones are using human hands against them.
Right.
So maybe it's supposed to be another image that here these demons are appearing in human form. They're appearing as a false image of the Pope. They're appearing as all this. That plenty of times we can say, oh, the devil, the devil, the devil. But the devil is really not, some red-horned thing with a pitchfork. That all too often we humans are the ones wreaking enough havoc. And in the book, demons, the devil, are using humans to accomplish this goal. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's supposed to be something like that.
And also, too, remember in the first river scene where it ate the guy? The guy went out there, and then the hand kind of appeared after that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Here it is. Okay. It says, once it was out of reach, it broke the surface again, rearing up to show its white belly, on which pairs of backward-facing curved black spines the size of paring knives were arrayed like teats. It hissed at them, and the spines flexed and oozed black fluid all over its belly. It had oily fins on the sides of its neck, ending in more spines. Now its tail rose up out of the water, and the farmer crossed himself and whimpered. The tail had a human hand at the end of it, so white it was nearly translucent, bright against the black sky. And then it says an effing hand. So, and then it says that again as he's fighting it somewhere else. But then again, that phrase happens in multiple fights, because I kept thinking, why specifically that phrase too? Do you know? I don't know if it was. I don't know. I really don't know. It had me stumped, to be honest with you.
Earlier used the word unbelievable when you were talking about like the treatment of faith and the works of God and everything. And you want your authentic literature to be believable, and you were talking about unbelievable. The word that was coming to my mind was incredible, which, if you're thinking about it, credibility, that it's something that you can accept, that you can believe, and something incredible is just so unreal, it's hard to believe, it's unbelievable. And to see something characterized in that way, with human hands all over the place being used against you, certainly seems, in the truest sense, incredible. If you're thinking of full of terror, that it's awful. It's not just awful because it's bad and gross. It's something that inspires awe in somebody. If I were Thomas and this thing is coming after me, I'm going to be hard-pressed to not just stand there and gawk at it, because how does the human mind rationalize something of ourselves being turned against us like that? For me, I'm a huge fan of zombie movies, and I think that was always something else with zombie movies, is that they look like a ruined, desiccated, falling apart body of somebody that you know. And how can you fight against something like that when that looks like grandma? That looks like whoever, your neighbor. But it's just awful that these bodies are being turned against us in zombie movies too.
I wonder if that goes into that horror aspect. You were talking about something that we can recognize being used against us. Maybe it was just an element that was added to give us that. I keep going back to disgust. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it
To be repulsive. Repellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now when I reread, I'm going to have to pay attention to hands, and I'm going to highlight every time I see hands, and I'm going to obsess. I am, and I'm going to obsess and make a list of it, because I will, because now I want to know about it. It's like in Macbeth. He references clothing a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Why do you dress me in borrowed robes? Things like that. And why so many clothing references? Because Macbeth is wearing a crown that doesn't belong to him. Mm-hmm. He's wearing these things that he has not earned. When he says, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? It'd be like if you were trying on your dad's jacket when you were a kid. And it might be your dad, but that jacket does not fit you.
Right.
And even now as a grown man, if I tried to wear my dad's jacket, it would be like fat man in a little coat. It doesn't fit. Yeah. So clothing references are absolutely a symbolic motif that underscores some message. So I'm not just being facetious. I will have a notebook out with all of these lists of hands trying to figure out why.
Something that I've been doing since we've really started getting serious about our podcast here, though, is I've been keeping notes on my phone so that we'll have something to talk about, so that I don't sound so stupid. But I mean, it's really helped my reading out a lot. Yeah, because you notice things like that and you think, what is that about? So,
I have honors kids do a dialectical journal in the summer whenever they read, and because it's an assignment and you got to make sure people did their work, I try to limit the number of things that they have to say. But that's why I do it, is because of the same thing. If I can keep a list of, these ideas, this running commentary, so I don't forget to talk about it later. And some people will sticky note their books. I know a lot of students do that. But it's a helpful habit to somehow have this running commentary for things to talk about later.
Well, I've got these journals that I'm doing with mine.
Yeah.
And I really wish... I don't know. Why do I feel like that's a hard thing to get them to do? Do you know what I mean? I think it's because, for me, it's hard to get my students to do that because it's so easy for me. Do you know what I'm saying? I know Annie's learning to read, and there are times where I've been frustrated teaching her to read because I was reading when I was 3. And I don't remember a time that I didn't know how to read. I'd kind of self-taught myself just by recognizing words like Nike or the way that I had learned to read is we would go to Nashville so often because my family owned a convenience store, and I would just read road signs. So I started picking up on, that says Nashville and this says Mount Juliet. So, anyways, so sometimes for me, like with that, it's so easy for me to jot notes down. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't even think about it. I'm just like, this would be something good to, because that was really part of those journals too, is I wanted them to think, I want to write this down about this character because we've been talking about character and perception and narrator's view on this, and I'm going to jot this down really quick. I don't know. If
we were in class talking about it, I know kids who would annotate while we're having book talk about it. I just know not everybody, but there are going to be some kids who do. I know that as I can say that I require the dialectical journal as an assignment, and I keep one too. I don't make the kids do anything I don't do. But it is a little bit of a hassle for me to be reading a book like Between Two Fires, find something remarkable, pause, have to write that down, pick back up the book. I got 2 lines later and there it is again. And I'm trying to write down page number, comment. It is more tasking. It is a little bit more to do than just losing yourself in the book.
Yeah. And with so much being placed now, you and I have talked about this a lot, so much is being placed in our classrooms to be digital. And there's really not any need for that. You know? There's stuff that we can accomplish, I guess, the old school way.
I also find it far more difficult to be able to have that kind of commentary digitally because we can highlight, we can annotate the digital page, that's fine. But as soon as we move beyond it, it's out of our thoughts. And bookmarking a Kindle copy of the book is nowhere near the same thing as bookmarking a physical copy of the book with those sticky notes that are perpetually visible to you. You just don't even think about them when they're in the Kindle.
Well, there's something too about having that something tangible that you can hold and look at. You know, that I had a friend who was really into music, and I have a large CD collection, which I've thought about getting rid of, but we've talked about how that might make a comeback, you know, like vinyl has. But that was something we had talked about, which it was so silly now because on Spotify, I think I'm always in like the top 1% of the world who on like minutes listened to. But I can remember when that really started getting popular, I said I will never have a Spotify premium or a Pandora premium because I want to hold this. And I do miss that to an extent, like holding that CD and placing it. Society's now gotten almost, as far as cars go, you can't just, my car doesn't have a CD player. Yeah. But I don't know. For me, that's why I like having them. I like having my books in my bookshelf because it's something to hold and something to have, and it is more. There's something more impactful to it, you know.
I haven't felt that way about my music. I love Spotify. I love being able to, at the click of a whatever, find my music. I do feel that way about my movies, my books, and my video games because I was a hardcore player of Diablo 2, and now you can't get, you can download it, but really I have the discs. Why shouldn't I be able to download it? And I do hate that about our economy, that we're getting away from the permanence of ownership of this stuff. And now you can download it, but you don't own it. You're just downloading and agreeing to the use of something that they could block, take away, do whatever. How many times do I go to Amazon and want to watch a movie that's now no longer offered in your country or whatever? And to connect Fahrenheit, when you take away that permanence of things, well, then how do you know that they can't be changed against you? I'm maybe have referenced this in a previous episode, but the classic Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, and how on Amazon now it starts off with a warning that it's been abbreviated by the ending. And you follow George through his entire life, and you get to the end when he meets Clarence and he's trying to commit suicide, and he says, something about how the world would be better without me. That's when Clarence is supposed to show him, here's how everything would have been without you. And suddenly it sweeps, and there's George in the snow running, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. He didn't get to see how awful everything. And so you're denying that. You could change narratives, you could completely do whatever you want to. Unless we have the permanent copy.
I'm going to read this to you really quick. I meant to read this earlier, so I hope I don't get out of, out of order here. Mary Beth asked me what I was reading. If she notices I have a new book, she always asks me what it's about. And so I explained it to her. And I was like, that was kind of when I was in the middle of, I don't really know how I feel about this. And she reminded me, you know, you were talking about these angels versus demons, that this is in the Bible. And so it's in Daniel. I wanted to read it. It's Daniel 10:12. And, well, I'm going to go back. It says, and behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, this is an angel, O Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand upright, for now I have been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. And then he said to me, fear not, Daniel, from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God. So Daniel had been praying for 21 days. Your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia, and came to make you understand what it is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is for days yet to come. And so, I mean, what he's talking about is like the spiritual warfare, you know, and he even talks about Michael coming and helping him fight these battles against these demons and the kings of Persia and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. I think that's sometimes when I was thinking, I think Buehlman might be a believer or has at least come across this before, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that goes into the message of the story, because Daniel had been fasting and praying for 21 days and was kind of getting like, where's God at, you know? Yeah. And that's what the angel says. If you would have stopped, I would not have had the power to have made it, but you continued and I've made it. And that's kind of what happens in the book.
That's a really good parallel. I don't know exactly. I keep bringing up Stephen King, but I don't know where he stands on belief either. I know that he stepped back from saying dark Christianity about The Stand, but one of his other really well-known books is Salem's Lot, about a vampire. And one of the characters in the town is the Catholic priest, Father Callahan. And the vampire shows up at a meeting between Father Callahan and a family. The vampire's agent is there. And it basically comes down to Father Callahan, the vampire, the human, and a boy named Mark Petrie. And they're threatening to kill the boy. And he makes a deal. He says, I will face you if you let the boy go. That's great. But Father Callahan has spent meeting after meeting in this book telling people, yeah, the devil, it's not really what you think. The devil is more worldly evil. There isn't really a real devil. It's worldly evil. And everybody's arguing, nah, that's not what you teach. You are convinced of this worldliness, but that's not what you teach. The devil's real as God is real. And he's like, yeah, we need to be more modern as a church and move away from that. Well, now here he is face to face with true evil, and he holds up a little cross that's shining. And the vampire's human agent says, throw that away. Face him with your faith against his faith. Throw that cross away. And when he begins to doubt, the cross loses its blue light. And the vampire closes in on him. And the whole lesson is supposed to be, you are the one who lost your belief in God. God didn't turn on you. Mm-hmm. You were the one who turned on him. And so Father Callahan gets on a bus and leaves town. He completely abandons the people to the vampire. But then he shows up in a later book series where he's fighting vampires, and he's very much refound his faith, and he is a hardcore, like evil's real, the devil's real, God's real. We have to not lose our faith in these things.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to talk about?
You brought up reading. What's the earliest thing you can remember reading?
Like a book?
Whatever.
Or just...
Do you remember the time when you were like, I can read?
I can. We were driving home, and we used to have a minivan. It was an Astrostar. Do you remember those? Mm-hmm. And I can remember I had been reading to myself the signs as we went by for a little while. We would go every 2 weeks to Sam's Club in Nashville to like stock up. That was kind of the way that we would do that. But anyways, my grandma had gone with us this trip, and we drove past a road, like a billboard just outside of Mount Juliet on the way home. And it had I can't remember the word exactly. It had a big word on it. And that was one that I couldn't read. And I can remember, I said, did that say da-da-da-da-da? And it was kind of like everybody turned and looked at me. And they were like, did you read that? And I was, yeah. And then we were driving, and the whole way home it was read this road sign, and I would be like, this, read that. I do remember my mom and dad doing Hooked on Phonics with us, because that's what I was going to do with Annie, but you can't really find it anymore.
Right.
I can remember doing that, but I can remember sitting in the kitchen floor going through that. But outside of that, that's how I remember teaching myself.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I peaked in kindergarten. I was reading on a 7th grade level in kindergarten, and then
holy cow,
it went downhill from there.
Okay, I'm way behind you. I remember learning to read, and I guess it must have been around kindergarten, but I don't really remember. Maybe I read before. I don't really think I did, though. Mm-hmm. I can remember getting ready for school, and we lived at my grandparents' house, and we shared a room with my mom upstairs. And I was getting ready, and I was looking at her bed and the nightstand, and she had one of those paperback romance books on it. Yeah. And I don't know, I was just absent-mindedly thinking about the word, the burning woe man. And I just kept repeating, and then it clicked in my head like a light switch of the burning woman, the burning woman.
Yeah.
And I was so excited, I can read. And then I was like, oh, God, what is my mom reading?
All right, let's rate this thing.
I want to give it a 5, but I'm going to stay at 4. I really, really like the book, and I'm leaning toward 5. It may be a low 5 for me, but I'm going to stick at 4.
5.
I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
I really don't reread books, and I'm going to reread this.
Wow.
It really speaks to me.
So what was your Psycho score?
I'm thinking like 18.
Wow.
I just really liked it.
Man.
It was very entertaining. It had plenty of truthful human things to say. It brought up questions about belief and faith, and we can say that God and the devil and good and evil are more modern things out there, but it showcases God, evil, as real things that humans battle with. And I'm enchanted by that idea that real evil can be lurking within people, but real good can be lurking within people too.
Yeah.
It's a story of redemption, and Thomas has a voice that you can hear in your head so easily.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, for me,
man.
I just really like it. I don't think you are anywhere close to that.
No,
though.
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
My gut, you were a 3 at best.
Yeah.
Okay.
3. I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
I was like a 10 or 12, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. And like I said, I liked the message. There were just times that I was, like we talked about, I was not sure my emotions towards it. Which, again, I don't want to take it as you should avoid those things. That's why I finished it, because we've talked about it on about 4 episodes that I really believe that you should be bothered with stuff. But are you disappointed?
No, not at all.
Because usually I've been, when I go back and listen to these, you and I are like a point or 2 off on the psycho scale.
Yeah.
So
I was never bored while reading it.
No, I wasn't bored with it.
And I knew when I gifted it to you, this is not your typical thing. So I knew this is not going to be something like he loves. But I just really loved it.
Yeah.
You brought up Red Dead Redemption. It feels like a video game that I would like to play. It feels like The Witcher at times.
Well, that's what I was saying. I kind of had to check with myself a couple times, because I remember thinking, if this was an Elder Scrolls game, you would be into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I was just more concerned with how someone was handling my faith, I guess. Yeah.
And I didn't even look at it through that lens, and it's a really good conversation to have about that.
Which I think we had a good one. Yeah.
I think I'm also probably a little bit biased because I say The Stand so often, and it's like a medieval version of that.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed it more than Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bird Box is another horror book that I've read that I gave 3 stars to, but I think I like Bird Box better.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'd say they're similar. Yeah.
Bird Box is a book
so
that definitely bothered me more than this one.
Yeah. Oh man. That's a good question right there.
Because I can vividly remember reading some scenes in Bird Box that I was just really bothered by, and so much of it you're having to do in the dark because you're not allowed to see. And just some of those scenes I was really bothered by. The monsters that are attacking him, I get that it's brutal and there's questions of faith, but I don't think any of the demon fights or enchantments ever bothered me as much as some of the Bird Box.
Yeah.
You're also never able to see any of the things threatening you. So they could be anything or not.
No, it's been 2 years since I've read Bird Box, but thinking back, being bothered, I was really bothered. I know I've told you this. The second half of the book really was... I thought on Bird Box the first half was kind of boring, to be honest. And then when I can't even remember his name. When that man shows up and they let him in, do you know who I'm talking about?
Are you spoiling a future podcast of yours?
Ooh. Oh, well, it'll be all right. I mean, we probably need to wrap this up. We're at 1 hour and 30 minutes, but it's okay.
Holy cow.
When that guy shows up, is when to me that was like, I was kind of like, oh, okay, let's get into this now, because you immediately didn't trust him from the get-go, I don't think.
Maybe there needs to be a future episode where you come with a list of top 5 books that bothered you in some way.
We can do that.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for the read.
I think you need to say goodbye like Thomas would.
I can't. I can't. I would love to.
It's time to close the show.
I'll tell it to you after I stop recording.